Hello, welcome to Math for All, where we strive to make math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone. I'm Molly Vokey.
And I'm Heidi Subnani. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're really excited to have this conversation with you. And we hope that you will follow along on Facebook, or you can follow along on YouTube as well. If you subscribe, that really lets you know when we have a new episode available to you. And we will shortly be on Blue Sky, so you can find us in that space as well. You can also find more about us on our website at mathforall.us. And if you would like to check out our recent book, you can do that at didax.com. So we're really excited and glad you're here.
Yes. So we are going to be talking about engaging learners in the flow, beauty, and joy of thinking, learning, and problem solving today. And we're super excited to talk to our guest, who we are meeting for the first time today in person. Well, I guess this is not in person, but I'm just going to pretend. I'm just going to pretend. It's already been a lot of fun. So we are going to talk to Alicia Burdess today, and I am going to tell you all about her. So Alicia Burdess has been a teacher, assistant principal, and math coach with Grand Prairie and District Catholic Schools since 2005. She has served as the president of the Math Council of the Alberta Teachers Association and the chairperson of the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics Publishing Committee. She has a Master's of Education degree from Simon Fraser University and is currently teaching as numeracy lead teacher and assistant lecturer with the University of Alberta Teacher Education North program. That is a long term. Alicia's passion is teaching through problem solving in a thinking classroom. She enjoys working with students and teachers implementing Peter Liljedahl's research and framework. She loves visiting classrooms, presenting at conferences and PD days, and is always excited to talk about learning and loving math. She wants everyone to experience the joy, confidence, and flow of solving big, beautiful problems, and has recently published The Dragon Curve, a magical math journey, a children's book to share the beauty of math. And it's in English and French. So
we're going international this year. We've had 2 international guests.
I know. How cool are I know. How cool are we? All right, so let's bring her in. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Molly and Heidi.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here. We've been looking forward to this conversation so much. And as we normally do, what is your math story?
Oh, boy. All right. So like a lot of us, I feel like I have a long history with math that has turned out beautifully. But I was your typical mimicker. Now we have a term for it. Thank you, Peter. Probably as young as I can remember. And I was very successful at it all the way through junior high, grade 10, grade 11. And then I was in a grade 12 AP class where it all caught up to me. And I realized that I couldn't mimic anymore. And I realized that I actually didn't understand what was happening. I felt completely lost. I'd always been a big question asker because I was always looking for the why, and I was always trying to make those connections and really understand, but I never really felt like I got any answers. So that's kind of where it all fell apart. I dropped my Math 30 class and I ended up retaking it with another one of my teachers who I'd known for a long time to get through it. And then that was the end. I tried not to take another math course throughout university. I think I had to take a statistics class for my phys ed degree, which was really fun. Not the statistics class, the phys ed degree. But that one was also extremely difficult for me. So that was kind of like where a lot of my math damage trauma has come from. So then I did my phys ed degree and I was working with athletes and I was, coaching sports and doing a lot of training and fitness with kids of all ages. And that's when I was like, okay, I probably should be a teacher. So I went back and got my after degree because I was like, I should probably, work during the daytime, not just evenings and weekends. And I should probably, make some money for this passion of mine of working with kids. So I went back to school, got my after degree. And that's where I met a professor. Her name was Norma. And she, for the first time, made me realize that math could be taught for understanding. And so that was kind of a turning point for me. It was just how my credits transferred that I had to take these how to teach math courses. So I took 2 of those with her, and still was, I was going to be a phys ed teacher, so it was all good. So I started my first job, and actually throughout my practicum even, and I was teaching, hardly any phys ed, but some math and some science. And I remember thinking to myself, well, at least it's math. Math is black and white, it's right or wrong. So, that's going to be a lot easier than marking essays and, teaching kids how to write. And boy, was I wrong. So I remember thinking like, okay, but remember, Alicia, you can teach math for understanding. Like, it's possible. So I started teaching, and holy smokes, I was teaching for understanding. I was starting to understand all of those concepts and connections that I had missed throughout my childhood. So I was like, oh my goodness, like that's why fractions works that way. And those are the connections between proportions and ratios. And I was really integers. Holy smokes. I think I get why. So I was making all these connections for myself because I was the one who was doing all of the math at the chalkboard. So I would throw out questions to my students, like, just to make sure they were following along. And then at one point I realized that there were 2 students that were following along. And I turned and I looked at my class, because I usually didn't do that because I was facing the chalkboard, right? And I was realizing that, wait a minute, they're not even with me. The questions I'm asking are so superficial. We're like finding common denominators. I'm finding common denominators on the chalkboard, and they're throwing out answers like, oh, well, 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, 15, good, we're all together, right? And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm doing all the math. So I'm doing all the learning. And that was kind of my point. That was my existential crisis in terms of, I have to figure out how to do this, but I had no idea how. So I knew it was possible.
So you're still in your teaching degree at this point?
No, this was my first, this was either during my practicum or my first year out. This was kind of my first couple of years of teaching. Yeah. So it was like my first full year of teaching, I think, where I started to kind of put these pieces together. Like, I have to figure out how to do this better, because then I knew that it wasn't just my practicum. I didn't just have to get through it. I was like actually teaching math. So that was the beginning. I signed up for every PD I possibly could on every single subject, everywhere I could go. Our district has always been super supportive with learning and professional development. Our current superintendent was actually me back when I started. So she was the math coach, and she inspired me to, go to the conferences, do all of the professional development sessions. For some reason, Peter decided to come to Grand Prairie in 2011, and he did professional development sessions through our learning consortium. He came and did talks at our teacher convention, and then he came and ran a master's program here. So I got to actually do my master's with Peter and his team from Simon Fraser University, and it's all been uphill, downhill. It's all been fantastic from there.
Sideways, upside down,
right?
Inside out,
over the place. So it's been absolutely an amazing journey. But since those first experiences of me being in a thinking classroom, within whatever sessions Peter was doing, I mean, now I've probably been to 100. He asks me why I keep coming, and I'm like, I can't stop. It's just a thing. And I think that was a turning point for me. Another turning point for me. Once I got to experience a thinking classroom for myself, I was like, I'll never go back. So now I'm super lucky, because now as a numeracy coach over the last, I usually do this for about 3 years, and then I go back and I teach, and then I come back here and I do it for another 3 years. Then I went back and I tried assistant principal. Then now I'm back for another 3 years. And, I was in a grade 1 classroom this morning, and I was like, I think I could do grade 1. Like, they were really cute. So yeah, here I am. And there's been a lot of wonderful people along the way that have really added to the story.
Really cute.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that is kind of fascinating, because I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like you actually got lucky in that you kind of figured it out early. Like, it was a few years into my teaching before I realized, like, I really am doing a disservice to kids and to myself, that understanding is not really happening 100% of the time, which of course 100% of the time is really like reaching for the stars, but you know, the possibility of it happening 100% was not even going to be possible given what I was doing with kids. So I feel like you got an early start. So yay, you.
But the thing is I still, of course, we all feel that way because we're teachers. It's like in our souls to feel like we're never doing enough. But I feel a little bit that way in terms of all of the new research that's coming out. And now I've been in this position for a couple of years. So with the banner method and with the 4-quadrant notes, I mean, I ran with no notes is better than notes for probably a decade. Right. So I feel now like I'm kind of missing out on all of the new stuff that's coming out. So now that's why I'm like, okay, I need to get back into a classroom and I want to do it again, start from start to finish and put the whole framework together.
Yeah. But do you think you could do that in a year? I feel like I would need several years to, I mean, as I work with teachers, I'm realizing like, you know, the learning curve is real fast in the beginning, and then it really slows down because you start to really see what the actual issues are with the math that is understood by the teacher and the students, and that tension takes time.
Oh, absolutely. And even all of the, you know, the things that happen, right? Like the parents are uncomfortable. Some of your colleagues are uncomfortable. The students are uncomfortable. And because I've now been out for this will be my 3rd year out of the school, you have to rebuild that whole credibility and have those little conversations / battles. So no, nothing's ever doable in a year. This is always a career journey, right?
Right.
That's why I feel like we're so lucky to be in the careers that we're in. Because this is a journey that we get to be a part of forever.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. I feel like all I do is learn, practice, learn again, practice again. And I'm practicing like through other people. I'm like, yeah, you go do this, come back, let me know how it was. Yeah. Or I'll do it with you and we'll see if it works.
But they're so lucky to have you because then they can take risks and they can make mistakes and be supported in it. Like, that's the other part that I really enjoy too.
No, I mean, having a community that you can have conversation in and share like, okay, like this didn't work. What do I do? Like, what about it? You know, like, and having someone come back and say, well, what about it didn't work? Like it's not like you're going to throw out the whole thing. Right.
And it's like, okay if it was messy.
Yeah.
Like, it's always messy.
Yeah. Like name a time where it's not.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And just having those opportunities to have those conversations and offer some like entry points. I was talking with teachers today, you know, because they were asking me what I'd come in and show. And I was like, absolutely. As long as we set the expectation that my coming in doesn't mean it will go well.
Oh, that's perfect.
Right? Like your kids don't know me. Like this is my first time in your building. They don't know me. Like I don't necessarily know like the routines and how you set things up. So yes, I'm happy to come in and do that. But no, like sometimes things work and sometimes things don't. It doesn't matter how many years of experience you have or how many times it's worked before. It may not this time. And so just what are we going to do in that moment? Like, what are we going to learn from that situation? And I feel like it lowers the expectation for teachers to be perfect. Like, and try something, right? Like, let's be a little uncomfortable with what we're doing.
And let's create this safe space, just like what we want to do with our students, right?
Yeah. And it's so hard when we don't give ourselves those same opportunities to make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
As we're hoping that, you know, our kids do. So.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what we're here to talk about, even though this conversation's super fun, but I feel like it's going to blend, right? So how do we engage all learners in the flow, beauty, and joy of thinking, learning, and problem solving? In 3 words or less, please.
That is not happening. I honestly believe from the bottom of my heart that if all we did in math class was engage students with the big, beautiful problems, and we let them experience that flow, that frustration, that perseverance, that confusion, that messiness of learning, but then that collaboration, the different strategies, the communication, then comes back to flow and joy. I truly think everyone's relationship with math would be entirely different. And I believe that about all education as well. If we throw everything else away, if we teach kids how to learn, and if we teach kids to love learning, I think that is our goal. Like that is my mission. My mission is to like pursue these big, beautiful problems, these opportunities for kids to just get lost in math. And then the rest of it, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out the tests. We'll figure out the notes. We'll figure out the connection making. But I enjoy it so much when I see the students enjoying it so much that I'm like, that's why we're here. So that's my goal. And holy smokes, there are things out there and people are collaborating and compiling resources and sharing their problems and their tasks. And, thin slicing is opening up a whole new world as well. So don't get me wrong. There's still lots of spots for thin slicing and for consolidation and all those big, beautiful new pieces that are coming out and have been, being implemented so successfully. And sometimes not. Sometimes it's not successful how I do it. But yeah, like I truly think so. Today, I don't know if you've heard of Cactovic numerals, but Cactovic numerals, if you were at the BTC in Arizona, I know Kyle Webb did.
Yes, I didn't get to that one, but yes.
But that's okay. There's still hope.
Yeah.
So it was shared by Jason Toe, and it is this one-page of symbols with operations and equality signs. So it's like this plus this equals this times this equals this, and it's on my website. Like I'll let you know how to get a hold of it. And I was absolutely blown away by the task. So the story is what makes it so special. So there's this page of symbols and equations, and the story is in 1992 in Cactovic, Alaska, a group of middle school students and their teacher realized that their spoken language, the words that they had for numbers, didn't actually match our Hindu-Arabic system that is commonly used, like our digits 0 through 9. So because junior high kids are the best, they decided to create their own number system. So they did. They created their own number system. And so on that piece of paper were the clues. And the question was, can you figure out all of the numbers from 0 to 20? That's it. That is the task, a beautiful story that was real, and then a problem to solve. So my mission then was like, I think this can be done in every grade. So I tried it. So today it was grade 1. And they worked on it for 50 minutes nonstop until they had to go out for recess. And they were so excited. They were so involved. They were sharing their markers. They were at their vertical surfaces. They were like, they started out just doing 1 to 9, and then they figured out 10, and then there were a couple clues to help. So those are the things, because tomorrow I'm going in and I'm going to do the exact same problem with the grade 10 students. And I'm like, if you can find those tasks, like those tasks that can span all ages within a BTC framework, because I truly believe that all tasks like that really deserve to be showcased in the BTC framework. I'm like, this is magical, because that's what math is, right? Instead of being compartmentalized into, our different curriculums and our different grade levels, and that it can only be done in a certain order, all of a sudden it's giving them something really cool to think about, giving them the tools to think about it, giving them their vertical surfaces, their random groups, their one marker, and then letting them fly. And I was like, 5 and 6-year-old kids for 50 minutes today that I didn't even know, because the task was that rich. So that's what brings me joy. And that's, I don't even know if I answered your question, but that's what I wanted to share.
Well, so I love tasks like that. Thinking practically from a teacher's point of view, which often is what I get when I go to work, like, if I only do that, what about my standards? What about learning how to simplify? What about learning how to add fractions? Like, what about blah, blah,
absolutely.
blah, blah, whatever.
And that's where I'm super excited about thin slicing, because what about it? Now we can thin slice that stuff. Now, I do realize I was extreme, but Peter did tell me once during my master's program with him that if we had a thinking classroom, and if kids were willing to think and engage and do this kind of math, that we could cover the curriculum content in way shorter of a time. And actually, I think he said 2 months. So me being me, I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. So because he said, once you're not spoon feeding anymore, right? And then spoon feeding and then assessing and then realizing it didn't work, and then spoon feeding again and then assessing and realizing it didn't work. Once they're willing to think and problem solve, the curriculum will just fly by. So that's what I did. I did these big, beautiful problems. And then I got really nervous when there were about 3 months left. And that's when I really tried to make sure that my curriculum was covered. Now, I do say that, but during that time, we had a group of teachers and we compiled those problem-solving resource books. So we made one for grade 8. So we made one for grade 2. We made one for grade 3. And I was teaching grade 8 that time. So a lot of my big, beautiful problems, we linked to our curriculum. So there was also that piece, right? Because so many of these problems have curriculum built right into it.
Of course.
So I did feel like I was very conscientiously picking the problems that linked with the curriculum outcomes that I was working on. And then the last 3 months, I was just trying to kind of fill in all those gaps. So, and I don't have to be that extreme. I mean, I'm not usually that extreme, but I just felt like it was a challenge and something fun to try.
Yeah.
I would suggest teachers just doing it when they feel like they can, and when they feel like they have the time, and when they feel like their students need a boost, or at the beginning when they do need to learn how to work in a thinking classroom.
Well, and I think too, I had this conversation recently around like anytime you've gone on any kind of break, right? Like, so we have a Thanksgiving break coming up here in the States in a couple of weeks, and then there'll be the holiday break, and then there'll be like winter break and spring. Like anytime you come back from that, the resetting of expectation, the introduction to thinking again in that space versus like immediately, like, let me hit you over the head with a content task, or a curricular task. Let's go back to it with a non-curricular task where we can really think about, okay, like that's time well spent. I haven't gotten everyone on board with that idea yet, but it's like that you will need this. Like ultimately it will serve you in the long run. If we can enter back in a way that reminds us of why we're doing this, reminds us of why we're spending the time collaborating, reminds us of why and how we communicate with each other. Or you could try and do that with a curricular task, but it's going to be much harder.
And it's not as fun. It's not as fun, right? So it's like, remind them, okay, this can be really fun. And then once they're engaged and ready to go, then of course, like, let's get back to the curriculum, And I really do think that thin slicing has opened up a whole new world for us to be able to do that.
Yeah. I'm wondering, and like, I love so many things about thin slicing as well. And like the idea of that and how we can change the way in which we present information to students. I do get like really wary a little bit though with it, because I think sometimes there's a perception, this is not the case, but like a perception that, that I can take any worksheet, right, of a lister, and that is that. And I'm like, sometimes
carefully selected.
It's worksheet-esque.
Yeah.
You can take a worksheet and pick the right problems.
Yes. Or a textbook, which has been written by all of these experts and math educators, and they are naturally sequenced in a textbook, right? So part of me is like, forget buying things, forget downloading things, just grab your textbook that's connected to your curriculum and let's thin slice with that. And there's even images. So some of it, it's just like, you can take a picture or you can crop it and you can use your images as part of your thin slicing. Because I think that a textbook is now your best friend.
Right.
Which is kind of ironic.
Yeah. No, I mean, and you can do things pictorially. And that's what I did in Arizona. I was like, okay, I'm going to like create only pictorial thinking tests and only pictorial thin slice options. And because we think that goes away too, right? Like, well, no, that's how we access some of this more abstract mathematics. That's the I was just going to say gateway drug. That's not the right thing, but like the entry point.
Yeah, it makes sense. I knew where you were going.
Like, oh, wait a minute. I can't think of the other word, but like, that's how we enter into these conversations and begin to really look at where that next slice might need to be, like depending on what kids are able to do like in a visual form and how they translate that into either number or like a pictorial model, and like having that understanding and the bridge between the two is really what's helping them like make sense of the problems versus just like spurting out numbers.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
I wanted to go back to something you were talking about earlier, Heidi, when you were saying using a non-curricular task to reset, because I feel like we have that it's almost like a gift to use because sometimes your non-curricular task might be a prerequisite skill for whatever is coming up, right? So using a non-curricular task doesn't always mean that you're not tending to your own curriculum, because some of them might actually feed what you need in order to start moving on to your next subject or whatever your topic is coming up. Because every task is somebody's curricular task.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
Which, when math is hierarchical, I never say that word right? Then it is part of our curriculum. It just depends on where our students are at, and I think that everyone can benefit from those pieces.
Yeah, for sure. Really so much fun, but I'm like anxious to hear a little bit more about the task that you did.
I know. I just actually wrote a blog post. I want to
see it.
Yeah, I just wrote a blog post before coming on this show because I was just waiting, and so I wrote a blog post. So I'll figure out. I'm not very good at that either. I'll figure out how to post that. And it has the folder with everything you need in it. And it was I thank Jason Toe every time I use it because it makes me so happy, and I cannot wait for everybody to explore it. And I just think it's magical when you can have a task, and I would really encourage people to try it, whatever grade they're in. In fact, we have our district right now. Our district goal is BTC across the district, across subjects, and we just launched this year, and we are so excited. And our very first task. So what we're doing is we have lead teachers come in that want to learn more about BTC, and then we train them up for a day, and then they go back and then they present to their peers during our professional development days. So we've had day one, and day one was the Kaktovik problem because we wanted everyone to have the opportunity, if they wanted to try it in their classrooms. So we have lead teachers learning about BTC. We have Kyle Webb coming to Grand Prairie 3 times 3 days, working with all of our teachers, working with all of our administrators, and even all of our superintendents and our central office staff, because we're like, if this is happening, this is how it's going to happen. So we're super excited about it. So we'll let you know how it goes. We're about a month in right now.
That's amazing that many stakeholders are on board.
Yeah, we are so incredibly lucky.
I wonder, and now that if you're rolling out to all contents, I wonder if there is a written alphabet for those Native Alaskans as well.
There's so many pieces with language. I know that's the cool part of the connections, right? The humanities and the language, and there's even some science pieces to it. And yes, I think I'm so excited for some of our high school teachers to just run with it in their different subject areas.
Yeah, I mean, because it's that idea of like when we're looking for patterns in language, in the same way as we look for patterns in numbers, which cryptographers do, but like that's not generally something that we do in like humanities land, but it is like an opening to that. And when you look and see the different ways and possibilities for that are really.
And the history behind it, and that whole idea of like reclaiming your culture and reclaiming pieces of your language and kind of taking that back and empowering yourselves. And they're junior high kids. It's just such a magical story. And I think that's why I connected with it so much. And there's a lot of hints and extensions built in. I don't want to give anything out because it's so beautiful. I want you to be able to experience it. But yeah, I will definitely figure out how to share that with everybody.
So can you talk to us? It's not about this specific. Well, anyways, can you talk to us about the kind of collegiality that's being built with everybody working on BTC? Like what are the conversations sounding like? between a math teacher and a history teacher. Like, how is that? I mean, that has to be so impactful for a district, even just a school.
Well, and I will have to keep in touch, and maybe we'll
Mhm.
come back and talk about this again, because we've had one session kind of rolled out. So I'm hoping that those conversations are happening or are starting to happen, because on our professional development days in the afternoons, where all of our teachers are in grade level groups, so they get to collaborate. So that's the other piece, is like they get to choose kind of like what they want to explore in BTC, with whom they want to explore it. But we have put them all in locations so that they have access to their grade level partners. So that's kind of the first year plan. It's a 4-year plan. I'm sure it will be changing as we go. This is year 1. But yeah, that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to see all of those connections. I went into a Bio 20 classroom yesterday, actually, and she had them up. They were working on mild, medium, and spicy questions. She had them redoing their random groups every like 5 or 10 minutes. And I was like, this is awesome. And they were doing it. Like they were regrouping every time. It was amazing.
They were regrouping every 10 minutes.
Yeah. They got new random groups probably 4 times in the class. And they were just into it. And she's only been doing this now for a couple of weeks. And she said to me, I can't believe how challenging this is in a good way for me. Right? It's fun. It's engaging. I heard from another teacher through someone else that the kid said to her, oh, I guess this is easy now for you, since you don't have to teach us. We're doing all the learning. And I was like, yeah, speak into the microphone. You are doing all the learning. It's so awesome.
Right.
So yeah, so I'll keep you posted. I am so excited. And I mean, of course, like anything like this, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a struggle, especially because it's district wide and everybody's kind of like, it's a district goal and it's all going to happen at once. And so I'm sure.
Right. But also because of that, they can support each other. Right. So like when you're just doing this in your math department, I'm thinking of like a school that I'm working in right now that has one teacher per grade level. And so they can talk to each other, but also they're not in the same hallway. They're not, they're purposely distance apart because of their grade levels, and they don't have a counterpart at their grade level. So versus another school that I'm working at where there are 2 teachers per grade level, and that makes it different because they can talk to each other about their content and their thing.
Yeah.
So I'm super curious.
Yeah.
I'm super curious to hear how teachers are going to support each other, or the conversations are going to arise where they're talking about different subject areas, but still same teaching methods, and how that's going to impact the
and one of our schools, right? And one of our schools has been doing a lot of it for a couple of years, because like people in Grand Prairie some people have been playing with this for quite a while. And they're starting to have the conversations of like, okay, well, now our kids are done. They can't be at vertical surfaces, all day, every day. And I was like, what a beautiful problem to solve. Now we can figure that out, right? Like, so those kind of pieces are coming out too. And it makes sense, right? Or if we give them Cactovic, what are they going to do Cactovic in social, science, LA, math, you know what I mean? Like, or how are we going to do it so that we can have collaboration and we can have the different connections and the the cross-curricular components without all of us doing the exact same thing at the same time, So I'm excited to hear what comes from that.
Yeah, I worked with one district where we basically made a spreadsheet of like each grade level, their non-curricular tasks that they were going to choose. And it was like, so we get these ones so that they're not used, before or after. And then like everyone did
call dibs on them.
Yeah. So it was a way to like ensure that there is like a new opportunity, a new task, and think about, okay, like yes, there are some things that might be more appropriate for one grade level over the other, but it also allows them to like plan for and make, okay, I have this collection that I can pull from that's like my grade level. And I know it's just going to be my colleague who's on my grade level versus
it becomes like a competition of like, where are the good tasks, and I want to keep them for myself. And however, I do believe like this Cactovic numerals, I've now explored it myself like 5 or 6 times, and every time I explore it, I get to take it a little bit further and I understand it a little bit deeper. So I also think we can find these tasks that are those those, Peter used to call those like the unicorn problems.
Yep.
That can be seen, over and over again within reason. And that's my motivation now, because isn't this a beautiful problem to have? It's like, oh, kids are seeing too many problems. Like, I love it. I love it. So now it's like, okay, well, how are we going to figure those out? So like that spreadsheet's a wonderful idea, and where I'm just like, well, I just have to find more tasks then.
Yes.
And
that idea, we can keep looking, but it gave us a starting point for the beginning of the year, because that was the plan, was to roll out like toolkit 1 and really start with non-curricular before moving, and like build in like,
and it gives that structure that helps us feel safe too, right?
Because I think everyone, they really needed, I mean, everyone's very like tiptoeing into in this particular case, and I was like, okay, so let's plan it out, let's make it so that everyone feels comfortable as they're entering into this space where I'm asking you to kind of
change every single thing that you know.
Let me give you this amount of control.
Well, and I realized that I love chaos, but that's not how I should approach everything in life, right? And I thrive in the chaos, but that's not going to sell it, because we don't want chaos.
Lots of teachers don't love chaos.
Absolutely. So that's where sometimes I think they just smile at me and maybe shake their heads, but I agree, and I think teachers are absolutely brilliant, and so I think teachers just make it work to what fits their style, what fits their personalities, the things that people create. Like teachers are so creative in what they come up with and what they're willing to try in their classrooms, and I think it's a really cool time to be a part of education.
I agree. Do you have a favorite resource that you continually go to for non-curricular tasks?
Just the one that we made, because the one that we made is a compilation of all of our favorites over the years. So our grade 8 resource, and people can download that off of our website. There's 3 sections. It's 567 pages long. Do not print it ever. You will be in trouble, and you'll run out of paper. You'll probably jam the printer. The first section is problems to build your thinking classroom, and I think there's like 20 or so problems that are some of our favorites. And because it was linked to grade 8, those were ones that didn't really fit grade 8, but like we said, it's all curriculum anyway. Then we had our grade 8 problems, and then we linked those to our grade 8 outcomes here in Alberta. And then the third section is problems that I wanted to try in my thinking classroom. So they weren't really vetted, but they were from like amazing people who've been contributing. So a lot of it is like websites with puzzles and problems and a lot of like things that I wanted to try still. So I go back to that quite a bit. It is hyperlinked too, so you can hyperlink to the different pages, even though it is quite old now. I should probably go back and update it. There's also our grade 2 book. It was another group of teachers that collaborated to create the grade 2 collection. And then there's a grade 3 collection as well. Originally, we were trying to go, all grades, but it turns out that it's like someone has to really take the reins and get it done, just because it's so much work putting it together and editing it and making sure it's all hyperlinked and, in a publishable state for teachers to access. So I have a friend who wants to work on a grade 6 compilation. So we're thinking about starting that up at some point. And then I have kind of like a half finished grade 1 compilation that we're trying to kind of get rolling as well. But it's just kind of like a side project that is moving very slowly.
Oh yeah, we know about those.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right? Well, I imagine you build it as you go, right? So it's not like you're sitting down and figuring out what non-curricular tasks you might be able to do in your 7th unit.
It's hard. And I think that's why the grade 8 one, that's why we started with grade 8, honestly, is because all of us who are around that table, we all knew the grade 8 curriculum so well. So then it was just pulling, and we bought a whole bunch of resources. We got money for it. We got like funding from a project. Yeah. So we were able to do that, and we got resources, and then we were combing through textbooks. We were combing through problem solving books from the 50s. We were combing through old math journals. Like, it was so much fun. And we were bringing in all of our problems that we had done in our master's programs or in our university, like math classes. And there were so many that linked to and it just was the grade 8 curriculum. So that grade 8 book, I mean, we have people using it for grade 12 and we have people using it for grade 6, right? Or grade 4, because those problems are low floor, high ceiling. So they can be used in a lot of different places. Same with our grade 3 book. We have people using it in grade 5. We have people using it in grade 2, right? It's just, grade 2 book is good for grade 1, even some kindergarten potential.
Yep.
potentially with some adjustments. Yeah.
Wow.
No, that is.
I'm like, I have to go because I have to go on to that resource immediately.
Oh, it's been there. It's been there forever. It will be there forever. It's okay. Don't print it though. You'll regret it.
I will not print it. That's overwhelming.
Yeah. While we're sharing, what is one of your favorites? Do you have one?
Problems?
Me?
No, like resources. Just Molly.
Oh, me. I mean, when I first start working with teachers, I do a lot of open middle problems because they're super approachable. And there are some for every grade level. And what I love about that website is go into grade 2 if you're a grade 3 teacher and you want to get started, because there's your non-curricular task.
It's all linked. It's so easy to navigate.
Yeah, and I use those with teachers, and I'm using 6th grade stuff with teachers, and they're having to make sense of decimals in a way that they've never had to make sense of decimals. So, or fractions, or, whatever the case may be. So that, I would say, is my easy to make curricular, easy to make non-curricular kind of experience for teachers when I work with them. And teachers also love them because once they experience one, they understand that the thinking and the conversation can be really deep about something that doesn't look so horrible, even if it looks really horrible. Does that make sense, what I just said?
Yeah. And
Like, here's your really ugly fraction. Let's plug some numbers in.
And once you experience it as a teacher, I find like we know where it could go wrong. We know where it can go right. We know what hints and extensions we could give. So it makes it a little bit safer when we try it with our own students because we felt it as a teacher.
Yeah. What about you, Heidi?
Math Equals Love. Sarah Carter, she has like puzzles and things that I use. And I love using those even for non-classroom spaces. So the building I'm in for the last 3 days, I'm thinking of doing this as well as having a like mathematizing in the hall a little bit and having like a bulletin board space where we can have an interactive math puzzle or thing that they can continually come back to. So that's one of those. A more recent, it's from Waterloo in Canada, the math problem of the week, or the math circle problems that they put together are really fantastic. And so I have been like delving into those more recently because they're by like 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like, so they're together. So they're not technically like always combined or linked to US standards in the same way, but I feel like they are really fantastic places to at least look and start having that conversation. And they're continually like, I just got emails today.
And isn't it neat how like once you start looking for problems, they just seem to come to you, like they're everywhere.
Yes.
And like those, the Facebook groups and all of like Tammy McMorrow and like all of those people who are like sharing and posting and building those communities online. I think it's just, giving more and more resources for people to talk about and to try and to share. And then they just keep coming.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, 100%. I love being able to view other teachers' classrooms through Facebook in a way that I would never get to do without Facebook.
Right, without that.
And the posting of the pictures and linking to the resources, like people are so generous, because even if you're doing that in your classroom and you're having success, you don't actually have to share that with people. You can just go and have your success and be on your way and not add any extra work to your plate. But people are so generous with their time and resources, assuming because they get the amount of support that they want and need from that particular space. So it's really lovely to see people sharing in that way. Yeah. So awesome. I love this. All right. Well, why don't you tell our listeners how they can learn more about you? Where can they go?
I have my website. It's just www.aliciaburdess.com. It's a work in progress. I don't know how to really edit it very much. I got someone to help me redo it. So I also have my old website that I know how to edit. So I don't know. I have multiple websites out there.
All good.
I just wanted to have a way to share with people.
Yeah.
So there it is. It looks really nice, but I did not create it. But someone helped me put all my pieces on it. So I now have to figure out how to edit it. Anyway, I am kind of moving away from Twitter and moving to Blue Sky. So there's my Twitter handle and there's my Blue Sky handle, if that's what we call it now. It seems to be getting more and more active, and a lot more math people are joining it. So it's super exciting, and educators, obviously. Feel free to reach out. You can email me through my website if you have any questions, or if you have any big, beautiful problems you want to share, or if you try the Cactovic numerals problem and you want to tell me about it, or if you're a kindergarten teacher and you want to try it, because that's the one grade I haven't tried it in. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I'm so glad I got to meet both of you.
I know. Well, hopefully someday we'll meet in person. I was telling her about CMC South, and she said that she's looking for other new places for her to experience some math joy. So
yeah, that's one of my favorites at this point.
Like, good to hear.
I mean, not that I get to go
to BTC at one point. Hopefully the BTC conference as well.
Not that I get to go to a lot of them, but that's definitely one of my favorites. So it was.
Are you for real? You have 4 conferences in 1 month.
Yeah, but that's like not exactly the same.
As what?
They're all the same. They're like similar-ish organizations to other ones. Like
Molly's not buying it.
New one.
Okay.
And one of them's virtual, so that.
Oh yeah, so that. Okay. This girl is a consumer of information like nobody else. She can take in a lot more than most people. So, anyways,
yeah, I can't really do that.
Thank you, Alicia, for being with us today. We really appreciate your time and your generosity with your resources. And I hope that our listeners will visit your website and try out your problems in kindergarten and tell you all about it.
I know. I'm trying to think of like someone I know who would try it for you.
I'm sure you'll find someone.
They did not have a K, so
there's a version just for K to 2. So that's the one that you want to try with your littles. Okay. I mean, unless we want to try the other one, we never know. We don't want to restrict kids.
Yep.
We don't, but some teachers might not be ready for that.
And it is scary, and it's hard the first time because you don't know what's going to happen. But it's pretty awesome. You just let it go.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So nice meeting you. Bye, everyone.
Bye. I know I say this every time, but that was fun.
Yes.
Right? I mean, we're the luckiest that we get to talk to so many cool people.
Yes.
So next time we're going to be talking to Brooke Powers. That will be on November 21st. We're looking forward to that because we have actually met her in person.
I know. I feel like I'm going to have to put a believe sign a la Ted Lasso right back here for her. Because she is such a fan.
She is.
Well, not that we're not, but yes.
I have not watched Ted Lasso since pandemic, so that seems like an entire century ago.
This is it practically. I mean, really, it's like from 2020 on, it's basically been like dog years. Every year is 7.
Total time warp. Yes. Well, we are going to be signing off. So if you want, please take a look at Math Activators at Didex. Heidi, do you have it?
I do.
It's in my bag or something. There it is. There's our book. And until then,
we hope that you keep math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone. Have a good night.